I think I've just shot the last video on this particular channel with one of these. This is a 12-60 kit lens from Panasonic, and here's why. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel, folks. My name's Shane. Today we're checking out this Panasonic Leica 15mm f1.7 lens for a micro four thirds system. You'll see it in a moment on my GH5, and I'm shooting with the kit lens right now, the 12-60, so I can show you a comparison between the two in just a moment. So there's a few reasons I purchased one of these. I wanted a prime lens for my primary camera, which is this one, and one with a wider field of view than the 25mm f1.7, which I have two of, and I use them on my B and C cams normally, and they're great lenses, but I wanted one that I could also just reach the camera easily enough and have the camera close to me, but still have a wider view. And I was unsure at the time of actually purchasing this until I had a chance to try it, how much wider 15mm was than 25, and I'll show you that in this video as well. So for those who don't know anything about this lens, I'll just give you a quick overview. This is a prime lens, meaning it doesn't have any zoom capability or anything like that. We also get a manual aperture ring here that will go anywhere from A, which is auto, from 1.7 all the way through to f16 if you're shooting outdoors. That might come in really handy. This is a focus by wire system, which means you can essentially just turn it until the cows come home. There's no limit on that. But I did find it to be a whole lot more responsive than the 25mm f1.7 to get where you need to be without having to just keep sort of cranking it around. So I like that fact. On the side of the lens, we also get an autofocus and manual focus button, and there's no way you could knock this accidentally. You've got to really push it quite hard for it to click into place, which is really great. You're never going to hit this by accident. As you can see on the back of the lens, it's made in Japan, and in terms of build quality, I'm really happy with this. The focus ring feels great, the aperture ring clicks into place nicely, and the buttons don't feel loose or cheap or anything like that. So overall, in terms of just how it feels really good. Another massive reason for purchasing this lens is I knew it would perform way better in lower light than one of these kit lenses, and it means I can use less studio light and still get a really great look. In this video, I'm going to show you not only some video footage, but I'm also going to show you some low light photos and video footage as well. But right now, I'm going to change lenses and we'll see if we can see a difference. I've just dropped the light 50%. It should still be ample in this room with this particular lens. There shouldn't be a whole lot of noise in the shadows and all that kind of stuff. I apologize for this shirt. I know it looks really crap on camera, but I wear it because it creates this awesome strobing effect. How about that? No, anyway, so onto the lens. I'll quickly cover some of the specs and then we'll jump into some test footage. The focal length is 15mm with a maximum aperture of f1.7, so it lets a lot of light in at that range. The minimum aperture is f16, so if you're shooting outdoors, it will be perfect for that. It also has a manual aperture ring. In terms of the optics, we have 9 elements in 7 groups and 3 aspherical elements as well. The minimum focus range is 0.2 meters, which is 20 centimeters or 7.87 inches. This lens supports autofocus and it also has a stepper motor as well. In terms of its weight, it's 115 grams or 0.25 pounds with a diameter of 58 millimeters or 2.26 inches and a length of 36 millimeters or 1.42 inches. The filter thread is 46 millimeters. Up first is some video footage shot with my Panasonic G85, all handheld, down the beach on my last day living in that part of town. It was a beautiful winter's day. It's way colder than it looks, but the water was beautifully clear. The sky was next to cloudless, and I thought we'll try the lens out basically in bright conditions. So here we go. All the footage in this particular section was shot using my Panasonic G85. It was all handheld using the 15mm f1.7. As you can see on the close-up shots of the sand, the bokeh effect is really easy to get. It seems to also capture the colors extremely well. I have adjusted the exposure and saturation slightly, but no grading has been applied to this particular section. One of the things I love about this is the sparkler-like effect of the light bouncing off the water. I think that's great. You'll see it again coming up in just a moment. Keep in mind too, I'm shooting on a bright sunny day and I can still get that blurred background effect, and I'm shooting in P mode on the camera as well. So this is all automatic. I thought that would be the best way on such a bright day to make sure nothing's too overexposed. In terms of the autofocus performance, it works extremely well going from the post over to the boats. These next few shots just showcase how well you can get that blurred background effect and how well the autofocus performs from something close to something far away, and vice versa. As you can see, even on a beautiful sunny day, getting that background blur, depth of field look isn't hard at all. No doubt about it. This lens makes doing that very, very easy. After I moved house, it had been raining non-stop and I had a 5-minute window of opportunity to try and shoot this next scene out the back amongst the trees. I also hooked it up with the DJI Ronin S gimbal. If you want to see my full review of this and you're not already subscribed, please do so. I'll have that coming up soon. Now this lens isn't weather sealed, so don't make the mistake of getting it wet. As soon as it started raining, I ran back inside, but you'll get a sense of how it responds in also lower light conditions, but also when it's vastly different in terms of how much sunshine is coming through. So let's take a look. Now over to my GH5, and we're shooting in the natural profile. A lot of this has been slowed down 50% from 50p down to 25p. So you'll probably notice that the autofocus performance might look a little slower. It's just because the actual footage is slower, but there's some regular speed stuff also in this particular clip. This is my new backyard. How crazy is this? While this lens doesn't have any stabilization, I was ecstatic with the results I was getting with the gimbal. Some reason it just works extremely well. I think the wider angles on a gimbal just seem to look a whole lot better than the tighter angles. When I was in the research phase of trying to pick a wider angle prime lens than the 25mm, I really wanted to see how they compared to a 25mm. So that's what we're going to do now. I've got the tripod set up right next to each other. I've had to raise the 25mm a little bit higher, but as you can see, it's vastly different. It's a much tighter shot. You can basically just see my shoulders now, and I've got a bit of space above my head. Whereas if I go back to this one, you can see so much more in the room. Let's do the same thing on the 25mm. There you go, and back to the 15. So the 15 is vastly wider. For me to get exactly the same results with both these lenses, I have to move the 25 back about 1 meter, which is over 3 feet or even further, to get very similar results in terms of how wide it looks. So that was another huge reason, and I can reach it and focus it easily as opposed to having it right at the other side of the room. So that's a really handy thing as well. I love the results I get from the 25mm f1.7 lens, that when I got the 15, I thought to myself, I'm not going to risk getting an Olympus, because I've read and seen videos as well where the color and contrast don't really match too well when you use them on the body of a Panasonic camera. So me shooting all of these Panasonic cameras, just sticking in that sort of brand, means I'm probably going to get more consistent results without having to do a lot of post-production. Both of these cameras have been white balanced, so that's the 25mm at the same distance as the 15mm f1.7. Both are at 1.7 right now. And how about the background blur? Is there much of a difference between the 25 and the 15? Let me know in the comments. Up next, we're going to have a look at some of the low light performance, both in terms of photos and in terms of video. Let's have a look. While this might look like a really well lit room, it absolutely isn't. The dartboard actually has a light on it, so that's what you're seeing back behind there. And the 3 lights that are flashing are pretty much the only lighting in the room. So it's actually darker than it looks, and the lens performs really well in f1.7. This first photo is of my friend Neil. Clearly he wasn't ready for the photo, but you can see there's a guy sitting next to him on his left, which is screen right. And I showed him the photo and he goes, wow, that's actually brighter than how the human eye sees. And I said, absolutely, it was brighter in the photo than what we were seeing in the room. So that's a testament to how well this performs in low light. And now cropped in at about 2 times, notice his face is still extremely clear. I think it kind of captured his right eye, which is the left one on screen. And if you zoom in, even on your computer or whatever, you'll notice how sharp this actually is. You'll probably lose a little bit of the resolution through that YouTube compression, but overall, I'm ecstatic with the results I was getting in a dark room. In terms of noise, it's a little bit on the ceiling, but that's expected. It doesn't distract from actually the photo itself, which is a really great thing. One of the things I love about this lens, and being that it's on a micro four thirds camera, is how little noise we have in the photo. Now the background is mostly completely blurred out, and I also love the way the lights look in the background, as well as that screen you can see that's kind of bluish. But overall, it looks super smooth. The background looks brilliant, and if there is any noise in the photo, there's not enough to make me want to complain about it. I think it looks nice. Let me know your thoughts below. While a lot of people say you can't use autofocus on a Panasonic camera, I always like to try this because some lenses work way better than others. A great example of this is the 25mm f1.7. Works extremely well in autofocus mode, as does this, the 12-60. So I think it's definitely worth testing for those who like to use autofocus. Let's take a look. So we're going to test the autofocus now between 3 points. As you can see, the lens is currently in focus. I'm going to touch the focus on the box, just slide my finger across now. And there it goes, it caught focus pretty easily there. And now all the way to the background where the posters are. No problems at all there. Let's go back to the box. Works fine. And back to the actual lens. And it worked fine there. Now there is one problem. Sometimes if you go to extremes, it doesn't always catch focus, but we'll try that. Let's go to the posters. All right, that worked fine. Let's go back to the lens. And it worked okay. So sometimes I've tried this and it doesn't always work properly. If we move this forward, it works fine. If we move it back, it also works fine. And notice the box is still quite blurry right now. If we were to move this forward, it would get even more blurry. The actual background blur on this lens is really great. Back to the box, back to the wall. Now, it hasn't actually done anything on the wall here. There it goes. It just, this contrast-based detection, you really need to sort of find something that's colorful. I tried the Muddy Waters poster, well, there's 2 of them. I tried right in the center of both. It didn't quite work. And then I touched on the black and yellow one and it worked fine. Then if we go into back to the box, it works fine. And all the way into the foreground, you see it pulsed a little bit there. That's quite normal for this type of system. And it's fine. This next autofocus test will also double as a bit of a background blur test. This FZ2500 I've got in the back here is only a few centimeters back. Behind the lens, it's actually in focus. I'm using one area, so the square is kind of like here right now. I'm just going to lift this with my hand, focus on the camera. FZ2500 is in focus. Let's go to the lens at the back. Yep. Back to the 14mm lens. That's in focus. Let's go closer. This is about as close as you can focus with this lens, somewhere around here. Back to the FZ2500. I'm not touching the screen or doing anything at all. To the background, back to the foreground, the FZ2500, and then back to the lens. So that works pretty reliably. What I do like though is using this with my hand. If I can pinpoint the box anywhere I like and just move it on screen, that's over to the lens now, to the background. This is a much more effective way of using autofocus. Even though there's a slight manual intervention, it definitely works a whole lot better. So in my opinion, use this. Overall, what do I think about the 15mm f1.7? Is it worth it, being that it's so much more expensive than the 25mm f1.7? Now this will depend on your circumstance and what you need. For what I needed, having a wider angle prime lens that I could just set up and forget, and also reach and touch and change the focus, all that kind of stuff, yes, absolutely. It matches my setup with the other two prime lenses. It's going to improve the video quality across all of my YouTube channels, as well as when I shoot videos for other people. So for me, it was definitely worth it. It's a lens I'm going to use all the time. I kind of feel a little bit sorry for the 12 to 60 kit lens, but if I travel, it's always handy having a zoom lens anyway. But for what I want it for, I'm really happy with this. I think the autofocus performance was really solid, as well as the low light performance, and just being able to shoot even in my studio with less light now is going to be fantastic. So for me personally, I think it's definitely worth it if you can justify it and you get a lot of use out of it. I'll be using it across my YouTube channels on a daily basis. So for me, I really feel like it was a great investment. For some reason, and I don't know what this is, it seems easier to go spend money on a camera body than on lenses. You think, well, how much different can the lenses look? I'll go back to the other one right now. And back to the 12 to 60 kit lens. So this will give you a rough idea of how drastic the difference is between a prime lens and one of these kit lenses that you get. I think if you're going to get better results in your filmmaking or photography, the lens is the biggest sort of part of the puzzle almost. So yeah, overall, I'm wrapped with this lens. I couldn't be happier. It seems to tick a lot of the boxes that I was looking for. If you do have any comments or questions, leave them below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you want to find out more about this, all links through to B&H will be in the description below. Thanks again for watching. Catch you soon. See ya.